Abundance is an overflow, the only thing and the only place and the only realm where we can find fulfillment and where we can find peace and where we can find meaning and where we can find abundance. And I don't mean you have to work hard, right? We're not talking about that. It's again about opening up the door to the possibility of, is there more to this? And if there is more to this, what are the next steps that I, as queen, as sovereign of my life, I'm going to take to shift this dynamic?
Welcome to Mindfully Sovereign, the podcast that invites you to reclaim your feminine self authority and unleash the abundance within. My name is Safa, I am your host, and I'm here to help guide you past your limiting beliefs and into the heart of your unwavering and undeniable power. This podcast is all about reclaiming your feminine self authority, learning the art of self seduction, and awakening your inner goddess so that you can become an aligned match to your most abundant life yet. So grab a cup of tea, get cozy, and get ready to become mindfully sovereign.
Hello and welcome back to Mindfully Sovereign Season 3. I can't believe that we are here, but I am so excited and ready to have some of these deep conversations that we are going to be having over the next couple of weeks and months. As you can hear, I have a little bit of a cold, so bear with me. Just the throat and nose situation is quite interesting to maneuver right now. But I am brimming with excitement to just really get into the conversation about abundance today. Before we get started, I just want you to take a couple of moments to take a deep breath and feel the resonance of the word abundance in your body. And the reason I want you to do this is because our relationship to abundance in this world is many-folded. It isn't something that just takes place in our mind, it's something that also takes place in our bodies. And you've heard me say this before, but it bears repeating just a little bit. Our bodies, our minds, our souls, everything is connected. And the way in which we experience this life is perceived by every single part of who we are. When you go through something in this life, your body experiences that too. And your body keeps the information of that occurrence. And we are able to either shift narratives or heal or expand on that information within the body many different ways. We can do it through breath. We can do it through somatic healing. We can do it through movement. We can do it in many different ways. And one of the ways in which we start healing our relationships to self and our relationships to our bodies and our relationships to our wallets, right? Which is one of the things that we think about immediately when the word abundance gets utilized, is by connecting to our bodies and finding what that comfortability or uncomfortability threshold is for us when we hold this word within us. I also want to make a couple of really important distinctions for us today. One of them being that a lot of people believe that wealth creates abundance. And more often than not, it's actually the other way around. Abundance creates wealth. And so, what do I mean by that? When we think about the word abundance, especially the way that it's become popularized in our society these days, we think about wealth of money. We think about the ability to travel the world when we want to, or sipping by the pool. You sipping a margarita by the pool, sipping by the pool, but sipping a margarita by the pool and just sunbathing and getting very luxurious spa treatments every week. And while these are aspects that can reflect abundance in our lives, that in and of itself is not abundance. Abundance is an overflow. Abundance is one of the beautiful essences of the divine feminine. And it works by pouring out. It works when there is an overflow, an outpouring, but the kind of outpouring that doesn't come from lack or depletion, the kind of outpouring that doesn't come at the expense of or in this forceful way, right? This is the kind of outpouring that just very naturally occurs. There is this expansive, very capacious way for life to be felt when we are in abundance. And that doesn't always necessarily mean that our wallets are overflowing with money, though that can be part of the conversation and part of the narrative and part of the dynamic. But I want us to take the conversation further and deeper. I want us to anchor this topic into our realm of personal sovereignty because, as you know, the deeper you fall in love with every part of who you are, the more your life changes. And the deeper you fall in love with every part of who you are, the more you begin to understand the way in which you see the world, how you interact with the things in this realm, and where you can fine tune and attune and then recalibrate. And so, the conversation of abundance, I want us to take it beyond the surface level, beyond the things that we think mean that we are abundant. When I say I want for every single person in this world to have an enriched, abundant, thriving life, I don't just mean that I want every single person in this world to be swimming in money, though that would be fantastic. What I mean is, I want every single person in this world to realize the decadence, the beauty, the suppleness of allowing life to pour through, within, and around in so many different ways, where we can look at where in our lives there may be an obstruction or there may be a contraction. There may be not a life bringing contraction, but a contraction that it becomes restrictive and that becomes absorbing, where it's basically choking the life away from something. That kind of oppression, that kind of compression, that is where lack resides. And when we are stuck in lack, it's very easy to externalize worth. It's very easy to think that outside of us is the only thing and the only place and the only realm where we can find fulfillment and where we can find peace and where we can find meaning and where we can find abundance. And so when it comes to the conversation that we are having around abundance, manifesting abundance doesn't always necessarily mean what we think it means. Manifesting abundance could mean an overflow of love, an overflow of connection with human beings, an overflow of connection to your own body, to your own power, to your own sense of selfhood, your own sense of self awareness, your own sense of self importance, your own sense of personal sovereignty. That is an abundant state of mind. Because from that place, we can look at the things that life is bringing to us and believe that we are empowered through them rather than fear that we are at the effect of them. I used to say that being in a certain space meant that I had the sword of Damocles hanging over my head all of the time, meaning I felt like because I was working, it was what a particular job, because I was working doing this. And there was a certain level of uncertainty in that job. That meant, I don't know, the job's here today, might not be here tomorrow. But that meant the sword of Damocles was hanging over my head. I'm recognizing now that really it was more a conversation of there's a pause, there's a breath, there's a flow, there's a moment in between. And in the moment in between, I get to crown myself sovereign of what is going on. I am never caged up. There's always a door, there's always a window, there's always a path, there's always a new key. There is always something that I can do to move through, to move beyond, to expand, to live, and to develop a taste and an understanding for the richness of this moment in time, even if it isn't perfect, if it is uncertain, even if it feels like the next shoe is going to drop any minute now, and I don't feel the way that I think I need to feel when I'm abundant, right? And I can claim myself in that power and I can say, true. Things are not perfect right now. Things are very uncertain. And I understand that the world of uncertainty isn't evil. It's not there to destroy me. It's not there to obliterate everything good in this world. It is there to allow me the breath and the depth and the pause that I need to observe, to reconnect, to remember to re-anchor myself down and to choose better for myself. That is a abundance mindset, as opposed to a lack mindset, which keeps us in these very rigid, confined. If things aren't exactly this way, then everything is the world is ending and we are going to die and it's going to be horrible and this is the worst, horrible, most horrible, terrible thing that has ever happened before. That rigidity, that hyper rigidity, that is lack. And what it does is it suffocates life. It keeps us from tapping into the possibility of reframing. It keeps us from remembering that we can take full ownership and radical accountability of our lives, of ourselves, of our actions. It keeps us from broadening our perspectives and broadening our ability to see things from a place of empowered action rather than from a place of reaction, which is very disempowering. And so when we talk about abundance, we want to talk about the state of existence that permits us to delight, to desire, to create, to breathe, to reframe, to choose again, to take pleasure in, to remember, to savor the pause, to put away or walk away from fear of not enoughness, of what is going to happen. The world is coming to an end. This is not good. I am dead. Of all of that. Moving beyond that. Abundance is the ability to understand true relationship with self and with the world around us. An abundant lifestyle is one that is led in deep intimacy. An abundant lifestyle is one that thrives in connectivity, in growth, in moving beyond limiting beliefs and crushing the limit, right? Going beyond the limit. An abundant mindset is the realm of yes and, which is very much the realm of the sacred feminine. An abundant mindset is the one that opens the door. It's the one that holds the keys. It's the one that realizes when there's no key, maybe there's a passcode. When there's no passcode, maybe there's an axe. When there's no axe, maybe it's a pull door instead of a push door. And maybe my mind goes there because we just finished playing D&D, but it's so true. Maybe learn from our environment, and that is an abundant mindset. I was having a conversation with one of my clients, and I asked permission to tell you this story. So she knows that we're having this conversation. But so it was really interesting that we were talking about making the connection between how constricted and restricted and afraid she felt in her finances and the connection that that had with how long and to what degree she had been restricting her nourishment to herself and her body for so long. And I bring this up because I want us to, once again, redefine certain things about the world of abundance so that we can remember that abundance opens the door to wealth. And so, if we are able to say that like attracts like, and that we magnetize the things into our life that we are most connected to, that we understand most, and that we often repeat cycles and that we follow trails and we have paradigms that are informed by the things that we have gone through in our lives. And that doesn't always create positive connection or positive interaction. Sometimes those things become toxic yet familiar to us, and that is why we remain in some of these toxic environments and relationships and things. Then what we can say is that our relationship to abundance, to wealth, to money, to self are all connected. And that somewhere in there, often we can find a correlation that we can see, hey, do you know what's really interesting? And this is the conversation I was having with my client was what's interesting is because of the way that she developed through her early life, she had understood, much like myself and much like many of us in this world, that her value was intrinsically connected to or tied to how small she could be physically. And in this case, she was doing something very specifically that had to do with physicality. So the look was important, right, to them. And so we talked about, you know, what's interesting is the more restrictive your eating became, the more anchored into fear you became about losing money. The more that connection to, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna eat today because I don't have enough to eat. And then I can't because then if I do, then I'm not gonna have work. And then if I don't have work, then I can't provide for myself. And that it became this really interesting cycle. It just became this Ouroboros of lack, connecting to lack, connecting to stiffness and rigidity and fear. And it all started feeding into itself. And so, what we are sometimes encouraged to do is look at that bigger picture. We've talked about this before. Take that bird's eye view, right? Become the eagle, become the crow, become the owl that looks at the macro of the micro of your situation and mull it over. Take it on a date, seduce it, get to know it better. In this case, what was happening was that my client had developed such a disconnected relationship with eating and with life and with livelihood because her livelihood was being earned from a look that she was presenting, that she essentially taught her body to fear food and at the same time to fear lack of wealth, lack of resources, lack of nourishment, lack of provision, lack of safety, lack of having the ability to live a life that was sustainable. And her finances started dwindling and dwindling and then becoming obfuscated. And that just became this cycle. And then the only way out of that was to push harder. And push harder a lot of times meant taking even less care of her body, dismissing it even more, spending days without eating properly or not even thinking about it. Because, and one of the reasons this came up was because she said to me, you know, I don't even feel hungry. And I said, okay, that's good. We can listen to that. We can listen to the lack of response in the body. Because, in case you didn't know, let this be the thing that gives you this information, which is important. Waking up without hunger sometimes is a connotation or is a denoter or a mark of your body being in a chronic state of stress and in a very heightened and chronic state of continuously pumping adrenaline and cortisol. That is one of the reasons why when you wake up in the morning, you are not hungry, is because you are in a chronic state of stress. And when we are in that stress, our body doesn't prioritize eating, it prioritizes survival. And so physically, this is happening and everything is shutting down. Plus, on top of that, the less we listen to ourselves, the more we dismiss our bodies as, ugh, just this thing that I'm having to deal with. And it's not even like pretty enough or thin enough or strong enough or whatever enough on top of everything, right? The more we do that, the more we silence it when it's saying, hey, I'm hungry. And you're like, no, you're not hungry. I just ate. Why would you say you're hungry? The more we argue and fight and dismiss with and to and, you know, with our bodies, the more disconnected we become and the more that voice quiets down. So if someone continues shutting you down, you are going to shut down eventually. Your body's doing the same thing. It's like, well, you're not going to listen to me when I tell you I'm hungry. So yeah, I'm going to try to tell you, but you're going to dismiss me. And it's going to become this very contentious relationship. And from that place of contentment, nourishment will be denied in more than one way. And there'll be a lack of trust between the parties involved, the self and the body. And then that same kind of information, the same restrictive pattern is going to inform other areas and other parts of our lives. It's going to inform the way in which we relate to things that have to do with sustenance, with nourishment, with provision. And they'll reflect one another. And so we spend all of this time trying to shrink ourselves down, thinking we're just trying to fit into our high school jeans. What's the harm in that? Or I just don't feel comfortable with a couple of extra pounds on me. So I'll just starve. What's the problem with that? I don't need that many calories at this age anyway, right? And so we get restrictive and we don't recognize that that restriction and that misalignment informs other areas of our life to include our sense of self worth, our ability to speak for ourselves, our confidence, our ability to take up space in this world, to choose better for ourselves, to create, to bring about, and to harbor or enter into a abundant and healthy relationship with wealth, with money, with finances, with the things that relate to that nourishment, that provision. These are sneaky ways in which we accidentally sometimes tie ourselves down and keep ourselves from living the most enriching, the most beautiful, the most empowering lives. Sometimes we think it's got to do with all of the external things. We say, well, clients aren't coming, the doors aren't opening, the world is against me, social media sucks, they won't show my content to anybody. We say that. And there are other things underneath that we don't really sit down to have conversations with, though, that are important. It's also not about being emotionally or spiritually bypassy, by the way. I'm not saying sit here today and talk to your money and expect that it's just going to come pouring down tomorrow. I'm not saying sit here and have a cupcake and all of a sudden you're going to become wealthy. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, are we able to open up the doors to the possibility for a deeper conversation with self about the role that we play in our lives that is obstructing or compounding patterns that have kept us in lack for a very long time? And what does that look like? Is it possible that we have a contentious relationship with the word abundance? Or heck, the word luxury. That's a trigger word for a lot of people, right? That we have a contentious relationships with these words because we don't believe that we are deserving of these things, because we fear that if we step one toe out of line, that means that we are no longer good enough, that we are not the good girl, that we are not the one who is going to get the reward, that we are not, etc. And then is that affecting our bottom line in a financial way? Are we not attuning to wealth because we are choosing to perpetuate cycles that are not opening the doors to true abundance and thereby through abundance to true wealth into our lives? And I mean that without blame designation. So, in case your inner parts hear that and go, oh, it's my fault, it's not about fault. It's never about fault or blame or anything like that. It's just about awareness. It's again about opening up the door to the possibility of, is there more to this? And if there is more to this, what are the next steps that I, as queen, as sovereign of my life, I'm going to take to shift this dynamic? Am I going to choose, just to go back to this example with my client, to nourish myself and to understand my relationship to food, to provision, to nourishment, to safety a little bit better? Am I going to choose to keep perpetuating the pattern because I'm too afraid? Or am I going to choose to go beyond that fear, beyond that limit? Am I going to choose to be the sovereign of my life today and say, because I deserve better and I know my worth, these are the reframes that are going to be happening. And this is where I'm going to find them. And when we start taking action, everything flows. The floodgates are open and we tap into that overflow, that abundance. Suddenly, there's an abundance of inner joy because you're starting to see yourself as someone worthy of receiving nourishment, receiving care, receiving protection, receiving the things that you absolutely 100% deserve. It's your birthright. All of a sudden, it isn't, I'm afraid that I'm not going to fit into my high school jeans. It's, wow, what a wonderful life I've lived. And I get to go shopping today, new jeans. It gets to be a different conversation. I'm not saying it's going to be immediate. I'm not saying that just by journaling it out, it's going to happen in a snap of a finger. I'm saying it's something that you get to walk with or through in your life every single day with more and more purpose and with more and more power every single time. Every single day you wake up and you choose, who am I and who do I refuse to be? If you refuse to be the person that is stuck in lack, then what does the person who chooses to be in overflow and in abundance do? How does she eat? How does she walk? How does she talk? What are the conversations that she is having? What are the connections that she is building intimacy into in her life? What are the things that she is feeding? What are the things that she is saying about herself, about her world, about her reality, not just to others, but most importantly to herself? What are the conversations that she is having internally? And what is the relationship that she has with herself? Those are the questions that we want to ask to open the floodgates of abundance so that abundance leads into this state of massive wealth, right? And that wealth can also get to look so many different ways. But what would that relationship with an overflow of cash be like in this moment if you hadn't taken the time to heal the parts of you that don't believe that you are worthy of holding it? What if all of a sudden you get handed $1 million today and internally, the parts of you that you've been dismissing that believe that you cannot properly care for your money, or that believe that you have to prove to others that you are worthy by showcasing, I don't know, a luxury good, a brand, a designer brand. There's nothing wrong with buying those things, by the way. I'm just saying in this particular example, like if it's something that is compulsory that you're like, I have to prove to the world that I am someone by saying that I have this money by showing this Birkin bag, right? If those parts of you have not been connected with your true self, if they haven't gone through the process of self seduction, of self love, of self introspection, of self nourishment, of self connection, embracing all of the things, if they haven't gone through those parts, they'll receive that money and the lack mentality that they have held onto that has to do with the deeper parts of self is going to kick in. That's why sometimes we see that the people who do end up earning or winning, inheriting all of these thousands of hundreds of millions of dollars, blow through it really quickly, and then they end up back in a state of lack because they remained at that same base point of lack the whole way through. It didn't matter that they had it, they were still in lack. And so we want to understand this. We want the abundance of love. And if we are in lack within our own world about who we are, about the kinds of people that we are inviting into our world, about the boundaries that we get to share with them, about the interconnectedness that we want to create through our values, through the way that we see the world, through our own personal power. If we lack that, then we could be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone in this world. And trust me, I have been there. It is not a pretty place to be. It's probably one of the loneliest, harshest, most painful places to be. And so we want to ask the questions. We want to look at the possibility of understanding the self better and more deeply so that in order to open up that portal to abundance, to wealth, to overflow in our lives. What we have done in order for that to be there is prep along the way. We've taken the lid off of the cup, we've cleaned the cup itself, we've made sure there's no gunk in there so that it can, when it overflows, we can drink of the chalice. And the reason I'm using the image of the chalice very specifically is because it is the reflection of the divine feminine, the chalice, the receptacle, the place where everything pours into and from which everything pours out of, where overflow exists in the coming and the going, where there isn't just one right thing, one right way, one pouring in, and then that's it, it's stoppered. No, the feminine holds everything, and that chalice is prepared with devotion, with dedication, with love, with tenderness, with the awareness that the things that are going to be coming in are also going to be pouring out. And so, therefore, that inside needs to be cleaned. If there are stoppers along the way, they need to be getting rid of, right? We need to get them out of there. We need to make sure that the chalice is completely open, that it's clean, that it can receive. And when it's pouring out, that everything that is coming out feels pure and aligned and in connection. And that way, it's a never ending in and out, in and out, in and out. And so abundance is something that we seek so deeply. And it's something that we talk about so often, especially in this new age lingo, in this world of spirituality. And we want to sink our teeth into it. And we want to believe that every full moon or every new moon or whenever we light a candle, we put our manifestations, we do something magical with them, and then they're going to burn up and the universe is going to open the doors and we're going to receive the things that we always wanted. And then when it doesn't happen, immediately we panic because it didn't happen the morning after. Oh, it didn't happen. I knew it wasn't going to happen. Why did I believe that mumbo jumbo? That was just woo woo bull. That just was never going to work. Why was I so stupid in believing this was going to take place? Well, hold on. What led up to this moment? That desire that you harbored in your heart, did you have a conversation with it? You know, was it a desire that came from abundance? Was it a desire that actually came from lack and fear? Was it not truly a desire then? Because if it doesn't come from abundance, if it doesn't come from this beautiful space, then it's not desire, it's just freak out. It's just, I have to because I have to. So, yes, the lists and the vision boards and the things, and that's cool. And the lead up to that. Where's your heart and your mind and your body at when it comes to this? That dream life you envision that has you positively salivating just at the mere thought of what it could be like if only. What is the conversation that you are having about the pathway that you will open in your life, in your spirit, in your mind, in your heart, in your soul, in your body, so that everything is open for the receiving and the creation and the living and the outpouring of that dream life of yours? What has been the lead up? And I don't mean you have to work hard, right? We're not talking about that. No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with working and creating and striving and saying, "Oof, I have this dream. And my dream life involves me being an author and touring and signing books, and everybody knows my book, and it's getting turned into a movie." Okay, well, then you have to write the book first. Come up with the outline if you want to, get to writing, write the first draft, maybe chuck it out, write a second, maybe better, write a whole world of existence for yourself. And then there's more, right? The manifestation doesn't just happen because, okay, now I wrote it and it's sitting in my computer. So why isn't anybody buying my book? It's not out there. And what are the steps? Is it self-publishing? Is it going to a publisher? Like, that's what I mean. These are the things that sometimes we don't think about when it comes to the world of abundance because, and listen, I'm the first one to get it because I kind of can think this way a lot too. And I blame the fact that I'm a 90s a 90s kid in this, but it's like, I wish that I could just point my finger like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and just make it happen, right? I mean, how wonderful would that be? You would just be like, oh, I want pancakes. Boom, pancakes right there. Where I want money, money right there, like something like that. I think a lot of times we think that way about abundance and wealth. That if I just write it down and burn this piece of paper, that it's just going to show up magically at my doorstep. And that's not exactly how the laws of this universe work. So, law of attraction, yes, like attracts like. And also, that means the internal, right? What is there already? So again, like attracts like. And if that like is, I'm never going to receive it, I don't deserve it, this is terrible, life is awful, I hate everything, then where can life pour into? And what can life pour into that? So we want to continuously give ourselves the permission to explore the possibility for more and to explore the realm of yes and questioning and reframing. What if I just looked at this a little bit differently? Oh, have I seduced this part of myself yet? Have I asked this part of me what it believes about having the Louis Vuitton bag or whatever? And again, I'm not wronging that. I love me some luxury shopping. I think because I'm just like that. But what I mean is is where is it coming from? And actually, yeah, I'll tell you that story. So, I will never forget this. I had my eye set on this YSL bag for years. I'm not a purse person, so I've never been very into a lot of that stuff, but I love luxury. I love watching fashion shows. I Even though I would never be a designer, I've always been into all of that stuff. I remember in fact, forever ago when I was like in middle school and I just then I would get sick. I had this one channel in my house, and it was all about runways, fashion shows, and I could just see all of the runways and all the fashion shows. I loved it. It was so good. So I've always been that way. And so I had this dream of getting this YSL bag because it was like just the perfect size. I also don't carry purses because I tend to just I don't carry a lot. I'm very minimalistic. But anyway, so I wanted it. And I was like, okay. So I started saving little by little. And I had this dream and I just wanted this experience to be like so special. And I knew I wanted champagne and I knew I wanted this whole wonderful thing. And the whole time I was dreaming of this, the whole time I desired this, I was having conversations with myself. You know, what does this feel like? Where is this desire coming from? Is this desire telling us something beautiful about this? Is it maybe feeding into fears of when we were little and little kids used to make fun of me because I didn't have what they had? I really had very open and honest and vulnerable conversations with myself leading up to the eventual purchase of this bag. That sounds so silly because it's like a material thing and it's like, Safa, come on. Like, but seriously, I had conversations with myself constantly, and along the way, I found some interesting things. I found that there was still parts of me that did feel very rejected by some of the kids in my middle school because it seemed like they had the latest and greatest and I didn't. There were parts of me that thought that maybe if I did have something special, that I could prove how special I was to the kids who constantly rejected me when I was growing up. And so it was so interesting to me to have these conversations with myself and along the way heal and love and pour into myself and understand the beauty of an abundant life, an abundant relationship with self, and let my younger self see that as well, so that she could then pause and break free of the cycle of like, oh my God, but if I could just have this, I don't know, Barbie car, then I could at least fit in. Maybe then the kids will want to play with me. And if she felt that way, now we can sit down and have a conversation and I can listen to her and say, "Yeah, I understand that," and love on her. And for her to see that and for me to express so many different things of her worth and her beauty and her power and her just validating her and her saying, "Okay, I just wanna go play. You know, this is good. Now I just wanna go play." That was life-changing. So for me, making this purchase when it finally happened and I had the champagne and it was, like, so special. I took pictures, I got to see other purses, I was, like, giving myself, "Okay, now I can dream about another designer item, and what's that gonna be like?" I was giving myself permission for so many delectable things at that moment. I was overflowing, and it was coming from a place of complete abundance. That manifestation took time. It took conversation. It took intimacy. It took almost inner world building. It took a lot of dedication and devotion to selfhood. It wasn't just me putting the designer bag in my vision board. It was there, but it wasn't just that. It was everything that led up to it. And that is an abundant mind frame. That is an abundant way of existence. That is what opens the door to wealth in our world, that abundance. That is what I want you to feel in your body now and see if that word feels different, if it lands differently. And maybe you're already thinking about things in your life that you've been desiring abundance from: work, relationships, a new purse, I don't know, right? Things. And maybe now you're opening the door to the possibility of, wow, if I really want abundance in my life, maybe it is just financial wealth. Maybe it is an overflow of everything. Whatever that is, this is what it gets to look like now because I understand abundance as this deeper, more amazing, beautiful, collaborative, loving, supple, delicious thing that I get to like make love to almost, right? And through that pleasure, there is this culmination and this beauty and this expansion. And when we start changing that, everything changes. And it might change things in your life that you didn't expect. Like all of a sudden you go, oh my goddess, I really have been restricting my body in such a way that I'm in lack everywhere else. I'm in lack in my relationships. I'm in lack in my finances. I'm in lack in my everything, in my the way that I express myself, just because I've been trying to make myself be a size zero. You might find something like that along the way. You might find that your inner child needs a loving hug and that they have a story to tell you that you might have just tried not to remember because it was so painful. And then that's where you'll find the new abundance. That's where everything will shatter in the world of lack. And all of a sudden, this portal to that chalice will open and you'll be able to clear it out and clean it and care for it and pour into it and receive and then out from there pour into others and give and all the things. So take time in your life to court abundance, to observe where there might be lack and how that lack is showing up for you. And then without judgment, without harshness, without putting blame, without any of that, converse. Open the pathway to more, to the possibility of deeper and better for yourself because you deserve it. You are worthy of receiving it. And then from that space, things begin to change and you will understand the true language of both abundance and wealth. So if you learned something new along the way that you want to share with me, then feel free to email me info@yoursoulfulgoddess.com, or you can DM me. You can find me on Instagram at yoursoulfulgoddess. You can just reach out whenever you want to. Also, if you want to just work one on one with me, if you're like, okay, that's it, I give, like, I really want to know what the self seduction process is like, and you want to work with me, my waitlist is open for 2025 right now. I've got spaces. So if you want to join, we can work one on one. That would be amazing. And I can't believe I almost forgot to do this, but I want to invite you to a super important and exciting event that I get to be a part of this year, which is the Women Thrive Summit. I'm going to leave all details of this for you in the notes, but just so that you know, because March is Women's Month, right? This is the perfect time to be celebrating this. And so the Women Thrive Summit is going to take place over the span of 5 days. We start on the 17th of March and go all the way to the 21st of March. And every single day, there's going to be so many powerful and amazing women talking and sharing their speeches and their hearts with you and their stories. It's going to be enlivening, it's going to be empowering. You're going to want to be a part of this. My speech in particular is going to be on the 18th of March at 10 a.m. Central. Again, all of the details for you to register and everything are going to be on the show notes. You'll also see that all over my social media. But I want you to join me, talk about abundance, an abundance of knowledge, of connection, of wisdom, of womanhood, of empowerment, of story, of so many different things. This is the most abundant event I can possibly even think about. So attend, don't miss out, save your seat. This is just so exciting. So join me and thank you for spending your day with me today. I will talk to you soon and just have the most wonderful, abundant day and week. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.